Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of All in the Name of Growth. I'm really excited to have you here today. I'm especially excited to be able to have this conversation today with Victoria Rader. She is a possibility coach and also the founder of You to Shine. She is an author and has so much value. Just in the one conversation that she and I had before, there is something that she had said to me that I have repeated multiple times and has ran through my head multiple times. So I'm excited to just be able to get into this conversation and into these nuggets. So Victoria, thank you for taking time to be on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Christy. I'm really, really going to enjoy it. I just know it.
Yes, yes, I'm very excited about this. When I saw that you were on the schedule today, I was like, "Oh, yay. I'm looking forward to that conversation." So, okay, when we talk about, we talk about you being a possibility coach, and that's amazing. The conversation that I really want to talk about today, though, is kind of niched down into money.
hmm
I think that most people have negative money connotations in their head, whether they got it growing up or they've created it themselves, they picked it up from their parents or the media or, whatever, the grouchy rich guy down the road. I don't know, we pick it up from all different kinds of places. So I love just this idea, though, if we can kind of encompass what we really want to talk about today in a statement, it's really that you are meant to prosper. And
hmm
and I love that idea for anybody that's listened to the podcast for any length of time. I'm a huge advocate and um I don't know, just believer that we all have something great inside of us and that it's really difficult to be able to do those things to any kind of real possibility without a financial ability to share that message with the world or to just show up as our best selves. It's hard to show up as our best selves when we're having a really hard time financially in our own world. So I'm just so excited to have you on the show. And you actually just put out a book, right? It just
Yes.
came out recently, Prosper Me.
Yes, Frost for Me came out in June, and because of the incredible family we have, won a bestseller in 10 countries.
Oh, that's so amazing. That's because you have put out so many other books that people are just like hungry when you get a new one out. So it's 35 Universal Laws of Abundance.
Yes,
That's
yes.
incredible. 35 laws. It's great when people can kick out 10 laws, but you've got 35 in there, which is phenomenal. So we're just going to kind of jump into some of that today and what we're going to kind of talk about. But let's first talk about just so the statement I had kind of hinted at earlier that you had said to me when we were talking a couple weeks ago was that a lot of people have this idea when they think of money and they like get sick of their kind of scarcity situation that they just want to go from like scarcity into like major success,
hmm
right? And that there's a place in between there that we need to focus on first. So can you kind of walk us through that aspect of, abundance?
Yeah. So, yeah, I want to talk about two aspects that meet halfway through, and there is a spiritual aspect and there's practical aspect. And so, while it is just very, very modern right now to say we're spiritual beings having physical experience, so we're not doing, I'm like, well, last I checked, I was doing. It takes lots of doing going to the bathroom. I mean, I'm doing. And so, it's just understanding that we don't have to choose. We can be the spiritual being while doing this life, and that, and just allowing ourselves to fully lean into understanding that if we choose to, everything we do can be from a place of being. And that's
Mm.
just another whole new perspective. So I want to talk about the concept that you've mentioned, to understand that everything we create is indeed created for spiritually, emotionally, energetically. It comes with an idea. Whether it is our idea or the idea we tune in into the ether of all ideas, it's irrelevant. It's the chicken and the egg. The idea starts it all. And then that idea requires for us to be aligned with it and then act upon it. And that's how it becomes reality. So to start up with whatever is happening in someone's life right now, like you look at your life and you say, it's in shambles. It is pretty messy. I think the very first point of mercy, of realization, and of self grace is to realize that what you're observing is a snippet from the past. That it was your past thoughts, your past actions, your past programmings that are your present reality. And it is huge because it has taken a while of those subconscious patterns of thoughts, of emotions, of spiritual planning to end up with this physical reality. So when we want to undo it and recreate something new, it's very important to realize that what's around us is the past and not get distracted or drained by it. Because
Mm,
very often we want to see the results right away. And it's leaning into that law of the harvest and saying, I get it. I'm in the field of harvest, however ugly it is, and I'm thinking of the next season. And I want my next season to bring new results. And you start creating what that is like via your mindset and spiritually. And the gap that I was talking to you about is that a lot of us confuse the concept of a thermometer with the concept of a thermostat. The thermostat, in this case, would be a spiritual setting. This is where you say, I do want to be at this point. I want to be a millionaire, let's say. Oh, I want to make, let's just be realistic for where the country is right now. I want to make 100 grand a year. If I make 100 grand a year, a lot of opportunities will open up for me. That's where I want to be. That's your thermostat. You set it up spiritually. And then you go back to your thermometer, and the thermometer says, dude, I'm happy you want to be at 100,000. Right now, we're like at 13 and a half. And if we lean into our spouse, we make whooping 30. Okay, that's where we are. So then your subconscious mind goes into override of saying, I need to close a $70,000 gap. And it has never done that before. And because
right.
it has never done it before, it's in a panic. So you have to go from survival to stability. And stability is making that 13 grand, and instead of making it in a year, making it first in 6 months, and then in 3 months, and then in months. And that is how you get to 100,000 a year by shrinking time, right? You are giving your mind something to work with that you have done before. So whatever it is that you make now, you are starting to say, this is my survival or this is my stability. My next step is success. If you're in survival, you go to stability. If you're in stability, you go to success. And if you're in success, you go to significance. And from a place of significance, you go into showing others the way. You
Yeah.
want others to be equally significant. So find where you are and then start shrinking time backwards. And by the way, if you're at a zero, that's a great start. It means you haven't learned any bad habits of money. So congratulations. You can, but find a number that doesn't freak you out. Can you heal the freak out? Yes. But how about we work with what you're capable of to start with? Yeah.
I think that that is such a great roadmap for people because, well, on two sides. One, it makes it possible. And I love that you likened it to it's something you've already accomplished. You're just doing it in a shorter amount of time.
Mhm.
And I know that for a lot of people, when they set their goals, they get so freaked out because it's something that they've never done. And looking at it from a position of it's something you have done, you're just doing it a little bit faster, is a really powerful position to be coming from when you're setting that new goal for yourself. But the other thing that I really like about it is kind of on the opposite side of the pendulum, and that is in the expectations part of where people get, right? Like they look out there, and the media and also the social medias of the world love to highlight the events that happen in people's lives, right? Like it's the person who sold their company for $1 billion, or it's the person, the company that went public, or the guy down the street that was able to buy $1 million house, or like it showcases these events at the end of the journey and never talks about what it took to actually get there. And it totally discounts how much work went into and how much, like you're saying, stability went into creating that outcome. Because for a lot of those people in those situations, it was years worth of investing in themselves and in their life and in their situations to be able to get them to that point. And I think it's really valuable to manage your expectations of what is going to actually happen. Now, that isn't to say that you can't like win the lottery or whatever, but those types of events are not events that we should be like relying upon for our like financial future, right?
I mean, If you have a record of winning a lottery 9 out of 10 times, that might be the path. I'm not the one to say
Sure.
it, but I agree with you.
For the rest of us.
There is a statistical probability. I joke often that I say, yes, I'm possibility coach, but really I increase your probability of success. Showing a possibility is just the first step, because saying it's possible for me gets you out of survival. As a matter of fact, when you catch yourself thinking it's just not possible for me, the very first affirmation, don't like back to, if you're making 25, 50, whatever it is, grand a year, and you start affirming I'm a millionaire, there is this little giggle inside of you saying, really? Who are you kidding? And that's what you're affirming, the feeling that comes with it. But what you can say is, it's possible for me. Because we can all believe that it's possible for me. So you affirm the possibility. But once you affirm the possibility, you increase the probability. You say, how can I make it more probable? And chances are it's not by buying more lottery tickets. you know, Statistically, probability is by being open to more opportunities to receive and to accept. And I want to make some very, very important observation is that money simply is a mirror that shows our deepest relationship with emotions. And so for a lot of us, we find ourselves so unacceptable. We cannot accept who we are fully and completely. That guides us, leads us to not accepting others and to not accepting opportunities for
Mm.
prosperity. But it starts with, if you're sitting there and you're saying, what is the part of you you don't accept at all? That's where your prosperity path starts. Talking to that part and say, come here, ugly. I love you and I accept you. And ironically, that is the beginning of prosperity, because you've just formed receptors for acceptance. Because abundance is not to be pursued, it's to be accepted as a guided opportunity. So,
Yeah, I love the word opportunity, and the context, especially with which you use it, is that, the abundance and the opportunities, they're always out there. But if
mhm.
you in yourself don't feel qualified or like deserving of, or even believing that that could be your lot in life, then it isn't, like it takes that mindset to be able to show up in that place. So let's talk a little bit about that, about the mindset that it requires to be able to, I mean, yeah, we definitely have to get ourselves, be in a place where we can accept ourselves, but really what is like the essential kind of first step in fixing a scarcity mindset?
Yeah, knowing that you have one, awareness, knowing that you have one, because I think a lot of us, if I would venture out to say all of us to different degree, all of us actually have a skewed perception of where we are, and it's great. Denial is a coping mechanism.
Sure.
This is why we keep surviving. So, but it's very important to understand where you are, because your traveling directions will be very different, right? If I'm going from DC to Paris versus from South Africa to Paris, right? From Cape Cod to Paris, my directions will be very different. And so the very first step is to say, okay, I am not only broke out there, I'm just actually broke because I think I am. And you know that you have a, how do we know that we have a broken mindset? When we tend to assume it's somebody else's fault. And it's just being absolutely vulnerable and honest with yourself. How often do you blame circumstance for the outcome? Because your
Mm.
mindset is not going to come in and say, hello, you have a broken mindset. It just doesn't do it.
Yeah.
And the fear doesn't come up and introduce itself as, but we can be noticing what we notice. And when you notice is that if you have a pattern of it's unfair, if you look around and you think life is unfair, translation, you have a broke mindset.
Mm. That's really empowering, actually. And I love that there is an example, a specific example that people can say. And that's not a hard pill to swallow,
Yeah,
honestly. Like to
yeah.
say, to admit that you have given all of your control over to the outside world to be in control of your life, because that's really the reality of when you are out there saying life isn't fair, and that that person or that situation or that boss, that company, that whatever it is, right? It means that you don't have any control over your
That's it.
circumstances. And that is so depressing. You
Yep.
know, that's a lot where that emotion can come in when you feel hopeless because you have no control over your life. And that for me, from a very, very, very young age, I think it was probably because my parents were divorced at a young age, and I loved growing up in my mother's home. And when we would go visit my dad, it was a like night and day difference. You know, there was
Mhm.
nothing really for us there. He didn't have hardly any food in the house. We didn't get to go hang out with our friends. Like it was just sitting there at his house and this obligatory, event that was happening. And I remember times being there just like I was going to go crazy out of boredom and just like hating that somebody was dictating the way that I was having to spend my time. And so it became just ingrained in who I am. One of my core values is freedom, and it isn't just like freedom, like country freedom. It's like I want to be able to choose how I live my life. I want to be able to make those choices for myself. Um, and so not having that control in your life, I've seen people live that kind of life where they just give out all their control. Well, it was so and so's fault, it's the neighbor's fault, it's the county's fault, it's the company's fault, it's the like everybody else. But until you recognize that you can do something about it, you're totally powerless in that situation. And that goes for finances as well. And I
Yeah.
love what you said about denial is a great coping mechanism, but it at some point you have to just be honest with yourself and say, yeah, there is a problem and I am going to fix it. I'm going to be the change in all of that. That's is really, really empowering. So one of the other things that we had talked about a couple of weeks ago was the difference between prospering and being a millionaire.
Yeah, I will go into that, but you just gave such a gorgeous example, vulnerable and authentic and so empowering that I wanted to like take it and break it into a practical formula that all of us can apply because you were physically put in a circumstance that you had no control. So that is true of so many of us. And that is that pattern of this is happening to me. And it is a part of life. There will be moments in your life when you get a cancer diagnosis. And in all fairness, that diagnosis is happening to you at that moment. It's just an exchange with life of powerlessness. The choice we make is how long we stand on that frequency as opposed to saying what you did next, which is, how is it happening for me? What's happening for me is that I am learning that my core value is freedom. So, our first question is not to deny that something happened to us, because that would not be authentic.
Right.
Something happened to me. In what way has it happened for me? But
Yeah.
not stay there and take the very next step off. And how can I change it through me? Happened to me. How did it happen for me? How can I change it through me? That is the step by step of everything. So you lost everything in money. You foreclosed on your house. It happened to you. Doesn't matter what the past programs were. How did it happen for you? It happened for me, so I know I can have a clean new start. It's
Yeah.
a reminder that just being me is enough to have a clean new start. So, how am I going to make a change through me? I'm going to
Mm,
learn about money. I'm going to dedicate my time, my effort, and I will not only rebuild my life, but I will build the life of my dreams. So, the difference of this state of powerlessness is not a simple fact that life happens, but how long we are on on that brainwave saying that happened for me, that happened for me. And that really is prosperity versus being a millionaire, because no number of zeros in the bank is going to give you the inner peace. And prosperity financially without inner peace is the void that is so devastating that can never be called prosperity.
yeah.
To me, prosperity is thriving as a fulfilled person with inner peace and financial stability. And if you sacrifice any one of those, if you sacrifice fulfillment, peace, or financial stability, then it no longer is prosperity. It is survival mimicking itself as something else. So you can have all the zeros in the bank, but if your relationship is in survival, or if you are, it's never enough, then it doesn't matter how much you have, right? It doesn't matter how much you have. Prosperity is not a number. It truly isn't.
Yeah, I was actually coaching a gal not too long ago. We were talking about she's having some money mindset kind of stuff. And we had gotten on, and that was actually one of the first things that I had said to her. I was like, a lot of people, I was talking with a gal the other day, and she had said that a lot of people try to go from scarcity to success, but really it involves stability. And I said, we have to, you can say, oh, I have all of these money beliefs about my life. And, this scenario played out when I was a kid, and this happened. And so this is what kind of brought me to this point. And these are the struggles that I'm having. And I'm like, it's good to honor those memories and to recognize them for what they are. However, it's your actual budget and your checkbook that's causing the problem. It's your spending habits that's causing the problem. So we need to get real about, get out of that denial phase and get into reality of what's actually happening so that you can understand where it is you're wanting to go and how you can get there.
Mm-hmm.
That there has to be that identification and that getting their point. And just talking to her about at the end of it, when we got done talking, she said, I've never done a budget before because I always felt that they were very, very restrictive. But the way you're talking about this feels very, very free.
Yeah.
And that's the aim of the game, right? Like that's what we're going for when we're talking about prosperity. It isn't just about money. It's about all aspects of your life, and it's about it being harmonious, not
Absolutely.
sacrificing one for the
Absolutely.
other.
And I love to, one of the laws in prosperity is the law of, you've kind of clicked on, there's a law of saving, there's a law of budget. And I love to think of it as, the map. It's like if you don't have GPS and you're just roaming out there, you're going to spend so much time and energy trying to find where you're going, and you might or might not get there. That's all budget is. Budget is a map. It just, when you have a map, you know the fastest way to arrive where you want to be, in this case financially. So the purpose of the budget is to empower you for the most efficient travel through finances. And if it's nothing more and it's nothing else, it's the map. And the suggestion I give in the book, because I think a lot of people are put off by budget because they're told to, well, create the budget then follow it, and possibility coach. It's not possible. What's possible is, from a point of awareness, is that observe first, right? Awareness always comes
Right.
first. So for 3 months, just jot down your expenses.
Right. And that's what I had her do.
Amazing things gonna happen, right? As you observe the patterns, you will start self-correcting even before you get to that point. Then you go be like, oh my gosh, my frappuccino cappuccino is a payment for the car I've been thinking I could never afford. And you might
Yeah.
choose to still drink the coffee, or you might choose to buy a car, but then it's a choice. Up
Yeah.
till then, you have no choices. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. And that was actually, that was what I had told her. I said, the thing that I want you to do is I just want you to go back through the last 2 months
Yeah.
and list out everything that you've spent money on. Like, this is how much my utilities cost, and this is how much my mortgage costs, and this is how much I'm spending on gas, how much I'm spending on groceries, how much I'm, spending on clothes or vacations or, whatever that looks like, credit cards. Just getting aware of where your money is going creates so much understanding. Like you said, if you don't know where you're going, any path is going to get you there, right? Like, it doesn't matter. You can take any old path you want. But if you're trying to get to a destination like that car that you want to be
Mhm.
driving, well, is there something that you're actually doing in your day-to-day habits that could be remedied, that to empower you to have the thing you actually want in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's really powerful. Are there any like final, I know that there are a ton. Okay, so let's I guess rephrase that question. Give us like two or three like of your favorite principles out of the book that you feel make the biggest difference, or maybe are the first things that people need to implement
Yeah.
on the road of kind of correcting their thoughts, maybe correcting their spending, correcting how they're saving money, just
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Yeah, the first one, I think, Let me just put them in the order. I want to talk about gratitude, forgiveness, and growth laws. The law of gratitude, the law of forgiveness, and the law of growth. Because I think the first one is the first law in the book. The last one is the last. But I think the law of growth is aligned so much with the message of your gorgeous podcast. So
Yeah.
I think I'll start there, and then I'll fill in the blanks with the other two. And so for in the law of growth, I have a formula that I think is so beautiful to just, I taught statistics. I love to teach. You pick a topic, I'll probably taught at different levels. So at some point in my life, I did teach a little statistics, and so I love formulas. I think our brain, no matter how good or bad or how much you loved or hated math, when you understand the simplicity of a formula, you can apply it daily. So that's my purpose for bringing a formula into your life, not to trigger years of math from school and needing a healing. Although if you do, call Christy, get a healing. Math is beautiful. It's one of the languages of the universe. And so, but so the formula is very simple. The formula is to get any results, right? You take your mindset, multiplied by your skill set, multiplied by your effort, and it equals results.
Mm.
And it's just very simple. So if you think of multiplication, when you multiply by a zero, you get a zero. And so what I see is usually people are stronger in one of the areas and they keep increasing the area and still have zero results. So mindset is powerful, but it's one of the three. And so you do have people that become addicts of mindset growth. And they read book after book and they just, they're so full of wisdom, but their banks are empty and so is their purpose, because their effort is still at a zero. And then you have the skill set. Skill set is very different from mindset. Skill set is that how good are you if you have a business at marketing, at social media, like what is the skill you can grow? And finally, where do you apply the effort? So when you're looking at your results and you want to increase them, you sit down and you say, let me look at the three. And from 1 to 10, where am I? Where's my mindset from 1 to 10? And if it's your mindset is at 8, you probably want to let it be. But if your effort is at 2, don't look at it as a failure of 2. I say take 10 minus 2. It has the greatest potential of success.
Yeah.
So your lowest number has the greatest potential of growth. Just zoom in there and grow that by 1%, right? And you will see change in results. So for any area of your life, universal laws are universal because you can apply them for money, for love, for parenting. It doesn't matter. Like so often, you meanwhile as a parent, you've read every good book, but you know what? You're lacking basic skills. Your kid knows how to research better than you do, so you feel insecure
Yeah.
and you don't go there. Learn how to research. Like that's simple example. So that's number one. That's the law of growth. Um, and then if you have any questions, stop me, comments. I love your things, but I'll go into the other two unless you wanted to add something.
No, I love the formula. I think that there's so much clarity in it that people can gain. And, I think that formulas, while like you say, we can have a little bit of trauma from our childhood, from, math class. I think that really as adults, it helps us to simplify a complicated world that
Yeah,
we live in.
yeah,
And that's what that does. It's just, it helps us to understand, okay, well, yeah, I've got a pretty good mindset and I've got skills, but I'm not really doing anything with them, right? And that's where that last step is that activation of it. I know lots of people, and for the last 10 years I've been coaching people, and I can't tell you how many times it's just another conversation that they already know. They're just not implementing any of the stuff. And it's
that's
like,
it.
okay, well, at some point the rubber meets the road, right? You've got to do something with it. Like
Yeah.
you can't just keep collecting knowledge. And people coin the phrase that knowledge is key, but really it's that activation of your knowledge that really
Gotta
makes
turn
it.
it. You
Yeah.
cannot open the door with the key in your hand. You gotta find the lock, that's skill set. Mindset is the key. Find the lock, skill set, turn it,
Got
and
it.
push the door. That's action. So,
Yeah.
if you want, unless you just like collecting keys, that's fine too, to each their own. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love that. I think that that's a really powerful clarifying opportunity for people to just implement just that, even just that one thing. So I'm excited to hear the other two.
Yeah, and because I'm a spiritual person, and so however you define God, like I define God as grand overall, designer. So however you define that, I do want to add that adding God to the left side adds infinite to the right side. So you will
Mm,
always get results, but if you allow for divine support into your life, however that looks to you, means to
yeah,
you, I feel it has been such an important support system in my life. The least I can do is just give that as an idea for somebody to explore further. So, with that, the second thing is the law of gratitude. And I start the book with that because um, I think if I had to choose only one law to really understand the prosperity and to thrive wherever you are right now, it would be the law of gratitude. I think a lot of us have a tendency to take things for granted. And the second we take things for granted, we're setting ourselves into lack mentality. And the lack mentality says, I want more. And the prosperity mentality is, I'm so grateful for the abundance I'm in. And that mentality is true wherever you are. And so, however tempting it is to say, as soon as I have more, I
mm,
will. That is a lack mentality. So the law of gratitude says, like, look at your life. If you're sitting on the chair, somebody has created that chair for you. Like everybody around us is helping us to survive. Yeah, nothing triggers me when people ask me, well, are you a self made millionaire then? And I say, there's no such a thing. It's the stupidest concept I've heard. There is
mm,
no such a thing as a self made anything. Just it's non existent.
yeah,
Last I checked, I mean, the clothes I wear, the earrings I haven't made them yet, yet I'm not naked, So
yeah,
there is nothing self made. We're all so beautifully interdependent. So the one the one catch with gratitude, and I give a couple of tips. One tip that I don't have in the book that I have on my phone and I love, because I'm into sacred geometry, the times are 9 a.m., 3 p.m., and 6 p.m., but you can choose different times. And at that time, there is a pop up on my phone that reminds me, that I'm loved and what am I grateful for right now. And I pause no matter what I do, or I pause right after I get the notification if I was busy at that time, and I genuinely focus on one thing that I'm grateful for at that moment to the point of emotional connection. And it can be the same thing. You see, you don't need to be fake grateful for 100 things.
yeah,
It's enough to be authentically grateful for one, but consistently. And the one thing that I see where the mismatch with the law of gratitude is forcing yourself to be grateful for something that's been horrible in your life.
mm,
And I think it's the pronoun for. See, we're not to be grateful for all things. We're to be grateful through all things. And just making that shift brings capacity for true gratitude into your life. So if something horrible happened to you, that powerlessness, you you are not living the law of gratitude by forcing yourself to say it was the best thing that happened to me,
mm,
it was the best thing that happened for you because of the lessons you have learned. You can be grateful for those lessons. Once you decode that, you free yourself to be grateful. A lot of us are not allowing for true gratitude because we think we're forced to be grateful for things that our subconscious mind refuses to be grateful for.
mm. I really appreciate the distinction in there about being authentically grateful for one thing rather than fake grateful for 100 things. I think that, I mean, we talk to people and we, recommend that we do gratitude journals for people. And, they can be like, yeah, I'm grateful that I have air to breathe and that I can see and that I can hear. And, like they start, and then that's great. Like, that's just kind of like surface level gratitude, right? But I think the thing that I respect so much about this concept of being authentically grateful for one thing is that you can choose the one thing and you can get into the feeling of what gratitude actually is. And
Yes,
that's the goal of it, is that you're trying to get into your core and feel what that feels like so that you can recognize on a daily basis when you are in a place of gratitude, that's what it feels like. And
that's
when
it.
you're not in a place of gratitude, then you're missing that feeling. And it gives you a benchmark to be able to recognize where that is, and hitting that gratitude at least once a day. I love that you have reminders on your phone to do that. That's a really powerful activity. For those who are just starting out, that might seem like, whoa, that's way too much for me. I love the distinction of one time, find one thing that you can get core deep gratitude for.
Yeah, that's it. Simple does it. Simple does it. Because once you feel that connection, you're creating neural receptors. Um, if you can hold it for 12 seconds, they've done amazing studies. They take the human brain, they now can take pictures of the neural connections and how they're formed, and it takes only 12 seconds. 12 seconds to form the new neural pathways. They have brain image to prove it. So if you are grateful for that one thing, and you can actually stay in that, and you can stay in that feeling for 12 seconds, right? And it's so sustainable. You have formed the new receptor for gratitude. So now your brain has a new pathway to observe your reality. So it's going to start looking for more things to be this grateful for. And then you're like me, running stupid, crying for no reason, but it's worth it. Oh, my puppy, little rock. I hug my husband, I cry. He's like, okay, it's okay, honey. I'm grateful for you too, I guess.
Right. No, that would be a really great exercise though. Wow, 12 seconds. That's incredible. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be complicated. And I just feel like that's much of how the world actually is it's not as complicated as we make it to be. And I actually was doing a podcast episode about that because my husband was like, you have an ability to just kind of simplify things down that other people make really complicated. Um, but it's true that, being able to just sit with it for just, 12 seconds, that's a great thing to do as you're falling asleep. So it's the last feeling you're feeling of the day, which only helps you be able to sleep more peacefully and wake up with gratitude in the morning.
Oh, I love it. And you're tapping into a very cool concept of creation because our brain, once we drift from, as our brain slows down, it goes through theta brainwave, which is where we're grateful, and then it drifts into delta as we fall asleep in delta. But the first 4 hours of the time that we are asleep, our brain vibrates on the image that we fall asleep with. So I take that moment of gratitude, and for those people that are manifesting a parallel reality that they want to, I have them imagine what it is that they want in their life as if it's there from the point of gratitude, not just saying whatever it is. If you're recovering from a disease, what would it feel like to be looking, let's say, at a note from a doctor saying you're healthy? What a miracle. Like you're looking into that, and I want you to tune in into that feeling so that you are in a moment of awe and gratitude. And when you fall asleep with that, you are now creating for 4 hours, let alone 12 seconds. That's a lot of 12 seconds put together. And your brain starts looking for ways to create that into your reality. Very powerful.
Man, it really is. I'm just sitting here thinking about, you're like, well, what is the thing that, you can really emotionally get behind? And I think that there's something in it. Like, so I love doing, vision boards and life vision and like creating all of that kind of stuff because I'm very visual in, my brain. And it's really helpful for me to see what it is I'm trying to create. And so I also do visualization exercises and that kind of thing. And it's interesting because I think that sometimes people don't do them because they're like, I don't know how to visualize the thing that I actually want. Um, and the thing that I would encourage people to do is, again, it's the feeling you're trying to create,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So for me, there's a lot of things that I want to create, but I know that there's one thing I can easily visualize for myself and feel that gratitude at that level that I want to, knowing that if I can attain that one thing, it means I have the ability to create all the other things that I want
Yep.
to create too. And so it doesn't have to be the whole spectrum. It doesn't have to be the whole picture, right? It can just be the one thing that helps you to tune into that center of belief and hope and gratitude that your life can be different than it is right now, which is going to get you to the place where it's different. Because like you said in the beginning, our current reality is something that happened in the past that brought us to this point. It was where we were then that we've manifested into this moment, which means that if we manifest something different now, we can get to that point later. So
Exactly.
love it.
Exactly. Simple. Simple. Well, and the third one, in that actually, as I said, for the purpose of our time together, that is the last chapter of the book. And I can honestly say I probably have seen more of the people in the audience or the clients that have taken this to heart and it changed their life completely. And that's the law of forgiveness. And you go like, well, what does the law of forgiveness have to do with money? And the answer is everything. In a nutshell, everything. Um, I like to, if you were to visualize that if you're holding both fists, they're tight because you're holding on to something that has hurt you. And no matter how much abundance is being poured around you and through you, the fists cannot receive. Only if you open your fists up and you let go of what you're holding on to, your palms are open to receive. It's a very visual concept. It happens to be the universal law of forgiveness, because forgiveness is for giving. For giving what no longer serves you away, and for giving space to receive the abundance that is intended for you and prosperity that is intended for you. And so with forgiveness, what I found out is that our subconscious mind is so powerful, and we can intend to forgive, we can verbalize forgiveness, we can, feel it, and yet there are triggers that bring us back, and then we get frustrated because it's like, come on, I've worked through this, I have no grudge that I'm aware of, and so what happens is that the subconscious mind will keep bringing us to one aspect of the other until it will have heard what it needed to have heard, period. There's no bypass, there's no sidewalk around it. So the most powerful thing you can do to, because all abundance starts with emotional healing, right? I mean, we even have a whole quiz to know which emotion to heal, because that's kind of where it starts. And so you sit down and you think of the one person, one thing, one place, one event, one whatever that you are triggered by the most, and you write a letter to yourself as if from them, asking you for your forgiveness, and while asking you for your forgiveness, telling you the exact things your soul yearns to hear. It's incredibly powerful. It doesn't matter whether the person is alive or dead. Few things will happen. You'll start with your name, dear your name, and then you're going to say, this is a letter to ask for your forgiveness. It's long overdue. Whatever you need to hear. And as you write it, you will feel that you have help writing it. Because
Mm.
that person's higher self, their essence, their energy, the big E, all my work has little m, big E when I say me. The
Mhm.
big E, the energy of who they are. Not the matter, not the mortal matter, not the little man, but that energy that wants them to heal steps in. And, we've had some incredible miracles of where those letters are written, and you write it for yourself and you read it and you say, and now I choose to let it go, because you really do, because you've been asked to forgive in a way that only you know you need to forgive. And for some people, people that were still alive that have harmed them, all of a sudden came out of nowhere and said, look, I didn't think I had the guts to ever tell you this, but I should have never done it. I mean, it's
Mm.
crazy. But that's not why you do it, because it's to you
Right.
at that point, it's irrelevant, because you've already heard what you need to hear. So it's a
Mhm.
huge thing. And because I want it to be in everyone's awareness, is once you let go and you accept that part of you, that it's forgiven, you will invariably see a little financial opportunity, because money is just energy. And
Mm.
it's the energy of acceptance that you've opened up. The thing is, we don't put the two together. But when you open up to all of life is meant to be all of life, and as I let go of, of stagnant energy in one area, I open to receive it in all areas. You're going to see how direct that proportion is. So forgiveness is huge, and it
Yeah.
cannot be bypassed on your path to prosperity, not long term and not in all areas of your life. So
Yeah. I like that when you were talking about forgiveness and how you're holding on to the thing. It reminded me of they had done studies like with squirrels and monkeys where they have them reach inside of a hole where their hand can fit in, but in a fist form, they can't pull it back out. And so they'll reach in and grab something inside of it, whether it's a banana or nut or whatever, and then they can't get their hand back out because they have something in it. And it just draws a parallel, a very powerful image parallel to what forgiveness is in our own lives, and also what you were talking about, the opportunities that open up for you to be able to then grab hold of, right? And when we can let go of the things that are poisoning us, essentially, because that's what holding on to grudges does, it allows us to pick those things that are better for us, those things that are meant for us, that abundance, that prosperity that is meant for us, that is out there, like we were talking about. Those opportunities are out there, but I've seen people so tightly holding on to the things of the past that they cannot move forward. I actually was having a conversation with a gal a few months ago, and she had been in a situation with her dad growing up, and her dad is still very manipulative, and so she's kind of like hiding from him, and she's like, I'm afraid to get on social media and try and grow my business because I'm afraid of what he's going to do there, and all of those things. And she's like, I want this and I want that. And I had said a couple of words. It wasn't even really anything too profound, but it was the thing that she needed to hear, like what you're saying. And she had come back a couple of weeks later and she was like, what you said, like literally, she said, I've been to therapists for years and nothing has ever hit me in the way that what you just said hit me. And she said, it's time to let go.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen her now, just like she's a different person on this side of it. And that's what you're talking about, in being able to transform from that holding on to the next place you actually want to go, and to not allow the event that had happened to be the thing that holds you back your whole entire life.
Yeah, because that is what's holding you away from that next opportunity that is present for you. So it's very important, and that's why I think it's so. Yes, the book has the basic steps and principles to apply, but they are on the practical side of the spiritual energetic
Mm-hmm.
practices, because they're one and the same. They're one and the
Mm-hmm.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing. So much great content, so many things to take away. I like have a page full of notes here that I'm like jotting down while you're talking. So I love everything that you said. And I'm actually excited to get my hands on a physical copy of your book because I love reading. And I think that just everything that you've shared already, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, amen, amen. Yes, I get it. So thank you for being the kind of person who has taken your own life experiences, despite the naysayers in your own life, in your past. It would have been easy for you to believe what other people said in the negative about your life and your abilities. It's easy to be like, oh, I guess that they know more than I do about myself. It's another thing to say, no, I am going to do what I want with my life, and to step into your greatness and to be able to show up in the world in such an incredible way, to be able to provide people with so much knowledge and actionable items that they can actually implement into their lives, that can change their lives, that can affect a change in their outcome. And I just think what you're doing is incredible. So thanks for coming on and sharing that with us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for having me. I do want to offer to you, if you wanted to do that, it's not pointing to it yet, but it will shortly. If you go to moneyquiz.me, and that's all it is, moneyquiz.me, it's a free quiz that you take that shows you the top 3 laws and your mode, your healing mode, your emotional mode with money. I find that to be a much easier way to ease into the journey with money, because it just gives a very simple intro to this is where you are. That's your first thing. And then you feel I did the first step. I've done the first step.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Amazing. That is a great resource. Moneyquiz.me. That's a great resource for people to be able to tap into. I will put that in the show notes and also in the YouTube description. Where else can people find you?
Anything and everything is really on our site, you2shine.com, you2shine.com. And we are constantly coming up with fun stuff. A lot of it is complimentary. A lot of it is, I call it the entry point good stuff. My newest baby that I nourish and love in addition to book is Empower Me app. It's $19 a year that will change your life. And I
Oh, that's
say it without
awesome.
any hesitation. I should say for the better, shouldn't I? For the
Yeah.
better.
Well, I would expect nothing less, of course. So awesome. Okay, I will get those links put up in there. And again, just thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Christy. You're so great. Thank you.
We'll catch up with you later.